When my mill found out I was dating her son, she started speaking her native language in front of me all the time, knowing that I wouldn't understand. Until the day of the wedding arrived, I addressed this special speech to her in her native language and thanked her for being as unaccepting as she was. Her face turned pale. I'm getting married to my fiancé who's not white. He came to this country for higher education and we crossed paths during our college years. From the moment I got to know him, it was clear that he was someone special, kind, caring, and genuinely the sweetest person I've ever met. He treats me with so much love and respect, and I'm incredibly lucky to have him as my partner. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said about my future mother-in-law. From the very beginning, my mother-in-law has made it painfully clear that she doesn't like me. I can only speculate as to why, but the most obvious reason seems to be my race. I'm white, and I get the impression that she would have preferred her son to marry someone from their native country. While that might be a cultural preference, her behavior goes far beyond mere disapproval. It feels like she actively goes out of her way to make me feel unwelcome, as though I don't belong in their family. The first time I met her was a disaster. She completely ignored me. I tried to be polite to make a good impression, but it was as if I wasn't even in the room. They tried to include me in the conversation and asked her to engage with me, but she refused. Instead, she only spoke to them in their native language, leaving me to sit there awkwardly, feeling like an outsider. My fiancé and his father were visibly uncomfortable with her behavior. I remember eating dinner in silence, trying to keep a brave face while my heart sank. Afterwards, my fiancé was mortified. He apologized profusely and reassured me that her behavior was unacceptable. He even promised me that if she continued to treat me this way, we wouldn't have to meet her again. Although we try to avoid my mother-in-law as much as possible, there have been several situations where it's been impossible to do so, like my fiancé's birthday celebrations. His parents, both his mother and father, always make it a point to come over to wish him and then take him out to dinner. My fiancé, ever insistent on including me, would ask me to join them. I would agree, hoping each time that maybe things would be different between me and his mother. Yet, every time, his mother treats me with the same cold indifference, ignoring me entirely as though I were invisible. Initially, I told myself I could learn to live with her ignoring me, but over time, I began noticing something else. During her conversations with my fiancé, she would sometimes point at my hair, my face, or my outfit, make comments in her native language and laugh at me. I couldn't understand what she was saying, but I could tell by my fiancé's reaction that it wasn't kind. He would immediately get defensive, his tone shifting as he would respond to her. Whenever I later asked him about his mother's comments, he would try to brush it off. He'd say something vague like, "She was just being mean, but don't worry, I shut her down," and then change the subject quickly. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something. I know a mean girl when I see one, and his mother was definitely one. She was probably making fun of my appearance, and it's done. What kind of mother behaves this way towards her son's girlfriend? It wasn't just about ignoring me anymore. She was actively belittling and demeaning me in a language I didn't understand. I mean, not to brag, but I genuinely feel like I'm the kind of daughter-in-law most mothers would dream of having. I look gorgeous, and I graduated college as a valedictorian, something I'm incredibly proud of. I even have a higher-paying job than my fiancé. I pay my share of expenses for the home we share, and I go above and beyond to make my fiancé happy. I've always given him thoughtful, amazing gifts every year, and I've even taken the time to learn how to cook his favorite dishes from his culture, something he loves and appreciates. So why would she make fun of me? I've even gone out of my way to buy Christmas gifts for both mother-in-law and father-in-law, even though I have never even once been invited to their Christmas celebrations. While my father-in-law has always been pleasant and kind to me and would have no issues inviting me, mother-in-law is the one who stands in my way. I've done everything I can think of to win his mother's approval and show her that I'm worthy of being in her son's life. But no matter what, she treats me like I am garbage. She deliberately hides behind her native tongue to badmouth me. I've even seen her badmouth me in front of other guests, like when my fiancé took me to his cousin's birthday party or a relative's wedding. I would notice mother-in-law glaring at me from across the room, and then she would lean in and furiously whisper to other relatives, pointing at me and clearly talking about me. If I tried to approach her politely, she would just ignore me and walk away. I mean, if she wanted to disrespect me so badly, why couldn't she just say it to me in English? After all, she's been living in this country for over 30 years, and she works as a kindergarten teacher at a local school. She speaks fluent, excellent English, so her deliberate choice to stick to her native language around me felt intentional. It was clear that she wanted to exclude me from the conversations, to isolate me and make me feel like an outsider in their family gatherings. This constant exclusion and deliberate alienation played a huge role in the decision I made to learn my fiancé's native tongue. There were two main reasons behind this. First, I wanted to finally understand for myself what my mother-in-law was saying about me. If she had so much to whisper about, I deserved to know. Secondly, I also wanted to connect more deeply with my fiancé. I wanted to be able to speak to him in his language and to share that part of his culture and to bring us closer together. So I took the plunge and started learning his native tongue. It wasn't easy, but I was determined, and I also decided to keep it a secret from my fiancé. I thought it would be a wonderful surprise to one day have a full conversation with him in his language and see the look of joy and astonishment on his face. For the last 5 months, I've dedicated a few hours every day to learning my fiancé's native language. I've watched countless YouTube videos, practiced with language apps, and worked diligently on my pronunciation and conversational skills. This journey has been as challenging as it's been rewarding. But one thing that has kept me motivated is knowing that it would bring me closer to my fiancé. Over time though, as I became more and more fluent, I started to pick up on exactly what my mother-in-law was saying about me. I've acted completely oblivious around her, pretending not to understand a word, so she has no clue that I'm aware of her true thoughts, but now I know. I know every single thing she says, and her comments have been nothing short of devastating. For instance, when my fiancé first told her about our engagement, he had her on speakerphone while driving, and I was sitting right beside him. At first, I thought she might surprise us with a moment of joy or approval, but that couldn't have been further from the truth. Instead, she launched into a rant about how she couldn't believe that her son was marrying a white woman, going as far as to say that his ancestors would be rolling in their graves. It stung, but I stayed silent, listening intently. My fiancé argued with her, asking her to be kinder to me since I was now officially going to be part of his family. My mother-in-law, exasperated bluntly, said how hard it was for her to accept me, especially since I was nothing like the daughter-in-law she had always dreamed of having. She didn't just stop there. She went on to say that even if my fiancé had chosen to marry a white woman like me, he could have at least picked someone more homely. According to her, I'm too modern to ever be a good mother to his future children. To my fiancé's credit, and he immediately defended me, he told her that her comments were not only disrespectful, but entirely unwelcome. He firmly asked her to keep her opinions to herself, but she was relentless. She continued bad-mouthing me, seemingly unfazed by his attempts to stand up for me. Didn't stop there. A few weeks later, my fiancé invited his parents over to our place to discuss wedding preparations. Father-in-law seemed genuinely excited and happy for us, but mother-in-law, as usual, wore her disapproval like a badge. At one point during the visit, she started ranting again in her native tongue, directing her comments to father-in-law and my fiancé as if I weren't even in the room. She expressed her wish that my fiancé would reconsider marrying me because, according to her, there was still time to leave me. The most bizarre and hurtful thing she said was that her astrologer had predicted that marrying me would mean bringing a black hole into the family, a force that would supposedly destroy their harmony and bring them bad luck. Hearing these words was like a punch to the gut. She also outright complained about my family. She said that their relatives would not feel comfortable seeing so many of my white relatives at the wedding. She then had the audacity to suggest to my fiancé that he should cut some of my guests from the list. Hearing this shocked me. But what broke my heart even more was watching my fiancé stand his ground and argue with her constantly, trying so hard to make her accept me. He firmly refused, telling her that it wasn't going to happen, but she kept pushing. As they went back and forth, I sat there silently pretending not to understand a word, but in reality, I caught every single thing she said, and it crushed me to see the effort my fiancé had to put in just to defend our love and the people I care about. The final straw, though, came when I invited her, out of sheer obligation, to join me, my mom, and my sister for my wedding dress shopping. I was hopeful, or maybe just naive, thinking that maybe this could be a bonding moment for us, but true to form, mother-in-law turned it into another opportunity to insult and demean me. As I tried on dresses, my mom and sister were so supportive and loving, hyping me up in every gown I modeled for them. But mother-in-law, she insulted every single dress I tried on, making passive-aggressive comments, rolling her eyes at me. The tipping point came when I tried on a dress I absolutely loved. It was a beautiful gown that made me feel radiant and confident, but mother-in-law, in her native tongue, muttered the word hideous. She thought I could not understand what she said, but I felt my heart shatter. I held back tears as I walked back to the trial room, closed the door, and broke down. I cried quietly, letting out all the frustration, hurt, and humiliation she had caused me. For the first time, I seriously questioned why I kept trying so hard to win her approval when she seemed so determined to make me feel unworthy. In that moment, I wanted to march out there and confront her. I wanted to call her out in front of everyone for the cruel things she had said, but I stopped myself. Confronting her in that instant wouldn't have been satisfying enough. It wouldn't have made her realize how deeply she had hurt me or taught me any sort of lesson. If anything, it would have just given her another opportunity to belittle me. No, I decided I would wait. I'd wait for the perfect moment when she least expects it and show her that I am not someone to be walked all over. So I've been thinking long and hard about how to handle my mother-in-law's behavior, and I've come up with a plan. I'm considering embarrassing her in front of everyone at our wedding to finally put her in her place. I know this may sound drastic, but after everything she's put me through, I feel like she deserves it. The constant snide remarks, passive-aggressive comments, and overall disrespect towards me have pushed me to the edge. I've been patient, tried to be civil, but at this point, I'm wondering if I should just let it all out. The question is, would I be in a hole for doing it? Is embarrassing her at the wedding too far? Or is this my way of finally standing up for myself? I just want to know if Reddit thinks I'm being unreasonable or if I've earned the right to finally give her a taste of her own medicine. Update 1. Thanks so much for all your suggestions and comments, everyone. Some of them genuinely made me laugh out loud, and I really needed that. I just want to take a moment to clarify something, though. My fiancé has always stood up for me. He's never let his mother's words or actions go unchecked. He constantly defends me and doesn't hesitate to call her out whenever she crosses a line. I can't emphasize enough how supportive and loving he is even when his mother's behavior puts him in a tough spot. I'm grateful every day for the way my fiancé handles these situations, and his unwavering support reminds me why I'm marrying him in the first place. His mother though, she's just a mean old woman, plain and simple. Her disapproval and negativity are entirely her own. No matter how hard my fiancé tries to reason with her, she refuses to barge. It's just who she is. For everyone suggesting that I should email her school about her behavior and report how she discriminates against white people, I just don't want to go down that route and potentially destroy her career. She has a personal issue with me specifically and not with other white people in general. Update 2. Hey, everyone, I'm finally married and currently on our honeymoon. I wanted to quickly update everyone about what happened earlier as I have been receiving 100 of DMs asking me about it. First of all, my husband and I had the most wonderful wedding. It was everything we had dreamed of. And as much as the day was about celebrating our love, I also managed to get my sweet, sweet revenge on my mother-in-law in the most satisfying way possible. You see, after the ceremony, we moved to the reception where I had the opportunity to give a speech. I started off in English, warmly thanking my friends and relatives for joining us on such a special day. Then as I glanced at my husband's side of the family, I seamlessly switched to his native language to address them directly. The collective surprise on their faces was priceless. I could see my husband's jaw practically dropped as he realized what was happening. His family too looked stunned and intrigued, clearly not expecting me to speak fluently in their language. I thanked them for being there and for welcoming me into their family. Then I turned to my husband with a smile and announced that learning his language had been a special wedding gift for him. His eyes welled up with emotion and he got up from his seat to kiss me right then and there. It was a moment of pure love and joy, but I wasn't done yet. After thanking my father-in-law for being so kind and supportive throughout my relationship with my husband, I turned my attention to my mother-in-law. With the same composed and gracious tone, I thanked her, sarcastically, for being as unaccepting as she had been towards me. I spoke directly to her relatives detailing how she had gone out of her way to make me feel unwelcome, insulted me repeatedly, and made demands of my fiancé to exclude me even though she knew how much he loved me. I could see the room grow quieter as the relatives exchanged awkward glances. My mother-in-law sat there looking shocked, and for once, she seemed to have no words. I wasn't loud or aggressive. I simply stated the truth in a calm and poised manner. My aim was to hold her accountable in front of the very people she had likely whispered to about me behind my back. I switched back to English, addressing all the guests as I shared with everyone present how during the wedding dress shopping, a day that should have been joyful, my mother-in-law had called me hideous in her native tongue. All eyes turned to her. My parents looked furious at mother-in-law. I could see her face turning red with embarrassment as the weight of her actions came into full view. I then addressed the larger issue at hand. I spoke about how, to me, skin color and ethnicity didn't matter in love. I love my husband for who he is, not because of where he came from or the color of his skin. I explained that my love for him was so profound that I had gone out of my way to learn his language, immerse myself in his culture, and even learn how to cook his favorite native meals. I wanted to be part of his life in every way and to embrace and celebrate the traditions that were important to him. I told everyone that despite all my efforts, instead of supporting me, guiding me, or teaching me more about their country and traditions, my mother-in-law had chosen to alienate me in every way possible. She had made me feel unwelcome, insulted me, and gone out of her way to demean me. The guests exchanged awkward glances, and I could feel the weight of my words sinking in. Finally, I looked directly at my mother-in-law and in a calm but resolute voice, I told her that if she truly believed her treatment of me was justified, then I would make sure she had no access to my future children. I wouldn't allow someone who insulted and demeaned me to bring that negativity into my children's lives. I didn't want my kids to be exposed to that. At that moment, Mother-in-law looked utterly defeated. Her face was pale and I could see her eyes welling up with tears. She looked embarrassed, perhaps for the first time. She truly understood the consequences of her actions. After the speech, my husband took my hand and whispered how proud he was of me for standing up for myself. He told me that his mother needed to hear every single word I had said to her. For the rest of the evening after my speech, I decided to treat my mother-in-law the same way she had treated me all these years, with indifference. I ignored her completely and focused on mingling with the other guests, enjoying the celebration with my friends, family, and new in-laws. She tried to approach me once or twice, attempting to apologize, but I simply walked away from her just like she used to walk away from me. From a distance, I noticed her furiously arguing with my father-in-law and my husband. Her frustration was written all over her face, and eventually, she stormed off angrily, leaving the room in a huff. Later, my husband came up to me looking amused. He told me that his mother was angry about the fact that I had embarrassed her in front of everyone. But then, with a proud smile, he reassured me that he didn't care about her outburst. In fact, he told me I was a total bad for standing up to her like that. He left, saying that after today, his mother would definitely think twice before saying anything disrespectful to me ever again. Throughout the reception, despite my mother-in-law storming off angrily from our wedding, none of his relatives complained about it. I received so much positivity and encouragement from his side of the family. Several of his family members approached me to compliment my effort in learning their language. They acknowledged how challenging it was and told me how impressed they were that I had taken it upon myself to learn it just to connect with my husband and his culture. Many even told me how thoughtful and admirable they thought my gesture was. Their kind words validated everything I had worked for and made me feel like I truly belonged with their family. In the end, I enjoyed my wedding to the fullest. It was a day filled with love and laughter. I hope it's clear that the revenge I took on my mother-in-law was about standing my ground and showing her that I wouldn't be pushed around anymore. I hope she has learned her lesson for trying to mess with me. If not, at least she now knows that I won't back down easily. In the end, I got my sweet revenge and celebrated a beautiful wedding and started my married life with a sense of empowerment and joy. Update 3. Okay. After returning from our honeymoon, I discovered several voicemails waiting for me at home, each one from my mother-in-law requesting me to meet with her. My husband, ever supportive, assured me that it was entirely my decision whether I wanted to see her or not. He promised to back me up no matter what I chose. Initially, I considered ignoring her calls altogether like she always used to ignore mine. After everything she put me through, it would have been so easy to just cut ties and move on, but a part of me felt that if she was reaching out, perhaps there was a chance for some improvement. So I decided to give her one last chance and agreed to meet her at a nearby cafe. When mother-in-law arrived, I noticed she already looked different, nervous, perhaps even remorseful. As we sat down, she surprised me by apologizing officially. For the first time, she admitted that she had been very angry with me after my speech, but she explained that over the past few days, she had been reflecting on everything. Apparently, several relatives had called her out for her rude behavior, reprimanding her for the way she had treated me. Hearing their feedback, coupled with her own realization, made her see that she had been unnecessarily harsh and unfair to me. Her apology was surprisingly sincere. She acknowledged that she had been judgmental and distant from the start, admitting that she let her own biases cloud her judgment. She even went so far as to say that she admired how I had embraced her culture, learned the language, and made such an effort to be part of the family, even when she gave me every reason not to. I listened carefully, staying composed, though her words did catch me off guard. This was the same woman who had spent years undermining me, and now she was sitting here admitting fault. It felt surreal, but also oddly satisfying. During our conversation, she opened up even more. She shared that my husband, being her only child, had always been her baby, and she had been very possessive of him throughout his life. She admitted that she had always envisioned him settling down with someone from their native country, someone she felt would be a perfect match for him. When that vision didn't come true and he chose me, it had been hard for her to accept me. She acknowledged that her resistance to me stemmed from her difficulty letting go of that image she had in her mind. She continued by saying that she deeply regretted making me feel ostracized and unwelcome. It wasn't easy for her to admit, but she said she realized that her actions had been quite hurtful and unnecessary. She promised that from now on, she would try to be better and more accepting. Her words were genuine, and I could tell she was truly reflecting on her behavior. I accepted her apology with grace as I knew it wasn't about holding on to past grudges, but about moving forward. I assured her that I looked forward to starting fresh with her and building a positive relationship now that I was officially a part of the family. I told her that I appreciated her honesty and that I was willing to give her the opportunity to make things right. We spent the rest of our time chatting in her native language, talking about my husband's childhood memories, and sharing stories about his life growing up. It felt like a real step towards connecting with her. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. I could see that she was trying and I was trying too. We laughed, exchanged stories and had an overall pleasant time. For the first time in a long while, I feel like mother-in-law and I are on the same page. Time will tell how things evolve, but for now, I'm glad we had this conversation. I completely understand if this update isn't what everyone expected. Yes, I could continue to treat mother-in-law the same way she has treated me, but after the way I handled things during my wedding, I feel like I've already made my point with her. I've gotten the revenge I needed and now I just want to move forward with a drama-free family life. I want to start fresh with her. That being said, I'm not naive. If she ever mistreats me again or demeans me, I won't hesitate to stand up for myself. I will not let her disrespect me or undermine my relationship ever again. For now, I'm choosing to be positive, leave the past behind, and take a step forward with the hope that things will improve. Update 4. It's been about 4 months since my last update. First and foremost, I'm thrilled to share that I'm pregnant. My husband and I are beyond excited about the new chapter in our lives, and I can't wait to meet our little one. As for my relationship with mother-in-law, things have definitely improved after that heart-to-heart we had. As I had mentioned in my last update, I really feel like there has been a positive shift in our relationship. Well, it hasn't been perfect. There's been a noticeable effort on her part to be more accepting and kind. She's even gone out of her way to spend time with me, offering help and advice with the pregnancy, and I tried to reciprocate by being understanding and open. Since we found out that I'm pregnant, she and my mom regularly check up on me and have been helping me prepare the baby nursery. From picking paint colors to putting the furniture together, they've been really involved and supportive. It's been so nice to have them both with me during this exciting time. There are still a few challenges, but overall, things are definitely getting better. My husband has been incredibly supportive throughout this whole process. He's always been there for me, but with the pregnancy, it's been even more apparent how much he truly cares. I know that he's relieved to see his mother making an effort, and it has definitely made things easier. In addition, father-in-law has been amazing to us. Lately, he's been working on building a baby rocker for our child. It's been so sweet to see him put in the effort and energy to make something special for his future grandchild. He has even promised to build us a treehouse soon. My husband and I are both so grateful for his love and support. It really means a lot to us. Overall, things are much better than they were before. I'm excited for what's to come, both with our growing family and with the continued improvement in my relationship with mother-in-law. Here's to a future full of love, new beginnings, and hopefully no more drama.